Hola guys, welcome back to Slow by Paula. I am doing an kind of different vlog for me because this is not what I normally do in the sense that I'm going to be live premiering this vlog and I will tell you why I'm live premiering in just a minute. So basically this vlog is a follow-up on a vlog that I posted a couple of years ago. This vlog has been quite liked by you guys and it's probably the most popular vlog I have on my site. And I've seen that initially people sent me questions and I used to send long replies, in-depth replies about all of their questions. But, as time went on, it was kind of overwhelming to do. And last year was my clinical sciences year. So I wrote all of my clinical sciences exams. Whereas this year we're supposed to be just in the hospital. So last year I was completely AWOL to everybody, not just you guys. So please, guys, don't take it personally. But basically, I've been flagging emails that have been coming in. And now I'm just going to go through, I think, all of them for the most part. I'm going to go through all of the ones that I have not answered. So there are people who I've replied to. I'm not going to go back to your emails. So this is essentially an FAQ about studying in Poland. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Um, I will be doing a live chat session, so messenger chat. I'm gonna do that like old school MSN thing, um, where you guys can ask me questions. And when I say ask me questions, I don't mean questions that I'm discussing in this video. I mean questions that I might not have discussed in this video, or things that you need clarification, or um, things where you feel like maybe you're not really, you know, wanting to, I don't know, like you don't want to really ask out there, then maybe I can also message you privately, like private questions basically. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and let's get into it. I just wanted to give you guys a disclaimer because I am going to be mentioning your names in this vlog, but I promise I will only be mentioning your first name and last name initial. This is for your non anonymity. Never say this word. Oh my God. For the sake of protecting your identity, I will only be mentioning your first name and your last name's initial, and also for the sake of saving you some space, because I cannot pronounce names to save my life. And of course, I can't remember names, so I clearly names and names just don't go. But yes, I'm going to be keeping it to that so that you guys can kind of look out for your questions, and then you can follow up if there's something you missed out from your question email. So we have Wandile from Zimbabwe. This Wandile M. She's asking, how did I apply? What was the whole process like? Any entrance examinations? And then she said, living conditions over there. How's the coursework? Is it taught in English? So let me start with, how did I apply? I applied actually because I was studying in Sweden, and a friend's friend who is now a surgeon in the UK recommended Poland to me. So I started doing a search on medical schools in Poland, and this was one of the schools that invited me for an interview. So I sent in my application. I had to write the GAMSAT, and the GAMSAT is basically for people who are doing the 4MD program. It's basically to show that you have undergrad education or the prerequisites needed for graduate medical education. So I took the GAMSAT and then I sent in my application documents. Um, there's a whole list on the websites for each university, what exactly you need to send it. And then after that, I was offered an interview. I took the interview via Skype. Some places expect you to come in person for the interview. Um, that was a 2-in-1. It was an interview and an exam. They asked me some science questions, and then they also interviewed me about why do I want to become a doctor, etc., etc. So my interview went very well. It was really good, very chilled. I had two examiners, and my friend who's a doctor helped prepare me. So yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing, honestly. What are the living conditions like? Pretty good. I can't complain. I lived in one of the so-called uglier cities, um, and the living conditions are good. So I can't say. Yeah, yeah. How's the coursework? The coursework varies from subject. Some subjects are worse than others, and some subjects will push you to the limit. And yes, everything is taught in English. So I'm realizing that I'm gonna have to be really fast with this. So next question we have is Aisha S from USA. She says, "Hi, I love your vlogs. Thank you, Aisha. I appreciate the love. I'm about to graduate undergrad and I'm an American citizen. I really want to study medicine in Europe because I love to travel. Would you recommend it? Are there any negatives for doing so?" I would recommend studying in Europe, but my questions are, what are your long-term goals? Because if you are planning to go and live in the US and that's where you plan on settling down, then I would say finish your med school, finish your residency, and then go and do a 2 year, 3 year stint living abroad, because it is harder to come back as an IMG to apply for residency, and it's even harder to come back as a foreign trained doctor into the US. So if your goals are to remain in the US long term, you want to have your kids and your family there, I would say that finish off your education and then try living abroad. Um, are there any negatives? I would say the negatives are maybe that you wouldn't be very familiar with your hospital system if you were to come and do your medical education here. But again, that's easily solved. You can be coming back over summer holidays and working in a hospital that's in your local city or town, so that you're just kind of familiar with the system and not kind of disadvantaged compared to other American students when you do apply for residency, if you apply for residency. And the other thing is obviously residency applications. European systems will not, their priority will not be to train their students to apply to American schools. It will be for EU standards. So you will have to do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself to kind of prepare for residency applications, step exams, if you plan to go back to the US. I would say those are the two negatives. But other than that, I think you have plenty of options in Europe. You have the UK, Ireland, Poland, Hungary, Bulgaria, Ukraine. Did I say Ukraine? No, I said UK. Ukraine. Yeah, there are a couple of countries that you can consider. Mostly the English-speaking countries and the Western countries, not Western, Eastern, the other one, the Eastern countries. But I will say that I would advise you to apply to English-speaking countries unless you're really keen on being in Eastern Europe, just because it's a situation where you will be with English-speaking patients, and so it also makes your life a little bit easier in that sense. And yeah, that's about it. The other thing is the 4MD programs. I know Poland has a 4MD program. I'm not sure about Hungary. I feel like I looked into them when I was first applying. So I'm not sure if they have a 4MD program, but Ireland and UK definitely have 4MD programs. And I know you did your undergrad in the US. I'm assuming you did it on a pre-medicine track like myself. So you should be able to apply to these countries that I mentioned. I hope that helps. Hey guys, I have the headphones on because there's like sounds coming in and it's distracting me, so I've just got some music playing while I read your questions. I know a lot going on, but yeah. Okay, so the next question I have is Oshini. I hope I said that right. Oshini I from Canada. She says, "I know you're very busy, but if you have a minute, I'd like to know more information regarding med school. I'm currently finishing my undergrad degree in Canada and I'm looking for 4MD degree programs. I've looked into a couple of schools such as the University of Poznan, University of Silesia, and which, I don't know if I said Silesia right. You know, just like my city, the spelling, sometimes you think you said it right, but it sounds completely different in Poland. And this is one of the universities that I don't really know how it's pronounced. Anyways, if you have a minute, can you give me some information regarding tuition, general expenses, and residency programs in terms of going back home to practice?" Okay, so first of all, your first question regarding tuition. Tuition varies between schools. I would say University of Lublin, I've heard, has higher tuition rates than most of the other medical schools. I'm actually going to address this question because it's coming up. So I won't speak too much on tuition. Keep waiting to get to the bottom because I'm going to discuss that more. General expenses. General expenses, I would say I spend around 400 US for my place. Well, actually, that's a lie. I used to spend like 400 US for my place when I used to live in my old apartment. Now I'm living in dorms or private dorms. And I would say I spend now 300 US. Yeah, I would say it's about 300 US, so it's cheaper. And then weekly shopping, I would say I spend 30 to 50 US every week for my groceries. So that would be what, like maybe 200 US a month. Um, yeah, and then what else? Transportation card is maybe about 30 US for 3 months. So in general, you guys can see what I'm trying to get at here is that the cost of living in Poland is quite cheap. I think the most expensive thing will be your tuition. But in terms of living costs, it's generally quite cheap and very cheap compared to other European cities standards. Yeah. And then the other one you said is residency program. Ooh, you're from Canada. Yeah, that's a big one for you. From what I've heard, Canadian students, med students that are foreign trained, so IMGs, have a harder time getting residency positions back in Canada. That being said, last year there were a couple of students from Poznan that came to speak to us that recently matched into residency programs everywhere. When I say everywhere, I mean UK, Ireland, USA, and Canada. So it is doable. And I remember thinking, wow, you are that one in a million. You go, girl. So it is doable. But my thing is, if you really want to be back in Canada for residency, I would say try and do your medical education in Canada because a lot of the Canadians end up coming to Europe and then they end up going to places like the UK and doing their residency and training there. And then only after that do they go back to Canada because there's such few residency positions available for IMGs. So it is hard to get back, and that's why I say if you can stay there and do medicine, try and do it. Just because you're going to be committing, you have to be mentally prepared that you might not be back there until you're done with not just your medical education but your actual, residency. Um, there are Canadians in our school. Some are going the UK route. I don't know if everybody's like that. I know our former student government president, she's Canadian, and I've seen her social media posts rotating in hospitals in Canada. So she looks like she's doing her thing. So it's definitely doable. And I just, I say it's up to you to weigh the pros and the cons and kind of value judge what's most important to you. I'm getting comfortable. Um, all right, so I have two questions now, and they're very similar in style, so I've decided to kind of just answer them head on together for the sake of saving time. Oh, I'm going to eat something right now. So Kamzi I is asking, is the Medical University of Gdansk English Division good to study medicine? Rosie R is saying, I'm considering applying to the Medical University of Lisbon. Can you tell me the basic rate of housing and tuition? So guys, I can only I fully speak to my university because I know the experiences that I've had here. I can somewhat speak to Jagiellonian and Poznan because I know people who have gone to those schools, who have graduated from those schools, and who have gone on to do residencies in the UK and the US, and I've spoken to them about their experiences there. Um, so these are the only three that I'm really going to say anything about, whether it's a good or bad, negative. I don't want to speak about things that I don't know. I have never even been to Lublin, so for me to start saying Lublin is wonderful, go to Lublin is like, alright, alright. That said, I have seen some students from other universities in Poland comment in response to people who ask about specific universities that I'm not at. So if you are interested in sharing your experiences about the university you're at in Poland and yeah, just speaking with people, please let me know, message me, and we can arrange like a little Q&A interview. Ooh, my first interview. Yeah, we can make that happen. But what I just wanted to say is that when I came to Poland, I compared and contrasted universities, and then I went with what I thought best worked for me. And I'm going to link down below either a website or the actual universities that offer English division programs. And then what I want people to kind of do is that you need to go to individual websites and find out information about each program. That way you can compare and contrast the programs and you can compare and contrast based on what's important to you. Something that might be important to me might not be important to the next person, and that will determine where they ultimately go. For example, if I'm going back home and back home after medical school, and back home is um, I don't know, Norway versus USA. Two very different application processes that you have to face. And then you have to ask yourself which university will prepare me best to go back home. If your concern is, I want to be in a nice city that's hip and vibrant, your priority is going to be different from the person who's worrying about which one will afford them the best residency to go back to. If your concern is like, I don't know, diversity, if your concern is tuition fees, you get what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of factors that go into it, and only you as an individual know kind of um, where your important criterions lie a little bit more so. So yeah, do the work, guys. Do the work. And when I say do the work, I mean do the research, because this is one of the most important life decisions you will ever make. Um, Going to med school is a big financial investment. It is a big emotional investment. It's a roller coaster ride. Let me put it that way. So you need to make sure you're making the best possible decision for yourself, and that requires you going out there and finding as much information as possible so that you can make the most confident decision. So the next person I have is Nathan K from Zimbabwe. Nathan's question, or rather initial statement, is, I'm looking forward to studying medicine in Poland. I want to know how much my family and I would have to afford annually, would need annually for me to be at the cheapest medical school in Poland. So this is kind of a two-in-one question. In that, first he wants to know how much it costs annually. So we kind of said 400 for housing. We said about 200 for food, and we said like 50 for transport. So I would say maybe you can get by with a minimum of 800 if you have an apartment and you live by yourself and you're not really doing the most in terms of like you don't go out often, you don't go out to restaurants, you don't go out to lots of events, you don't travel around. I would say maybe 800 for an individual renting an apartment, one single individual. That said, I don't know how much it would be for an entire family. And obviously, it could be slightly a little bit less if you were staying in the dorms. So yeah, it varies, but I would say about 800, which would be what? Mathematics, here we come. 80, not 80, 800, 8,000 plus 1,600, 9,600. Wow, that took me a while. Yeah, so 9,600, so plus minus 10,000 US dollars a year. But then you also really have to remember that you might go home for holidays like 1 month or 2 months, and then in those months that you're not in Poland, you're obviously saving money. So yeah, that's how much I would say for a year. The second part of your question, what's the second part? Oh, the cheapest medical school in Poland. So this question, I just really wanted to address it because I've this is one of the $1 million questions that I've been getting. There are $2 million questions, and this is the first one that I wanted to speak up on. Everybody's asking me which is the cheapest medical school, and I just want to say, first of all, medical school is an investment. An investment. I said it already before, but you really need to pick the schools that you can get the most bang for your buck, essentially. Like, obviously money is important, and I'm not going to say go for the most expensive when your financial situation doesn't afford for that. But I'm also saying don't go for the cheapest option, and it's not accredited, and your degree will mean nothing in 4 years after you have spent a lot of time working your butt off for that and putting in a lot of money. You've maybe taken out a loan to go to this university, and then it's just not accredited and it's not recognized by anybody. That is the ultimate waste of money. You know, better you be tight on finances and you don't have as much money to do the luxury things that you like to do, and make sure you're in a good program, than to try and come here and go with the cheapest university that may not necessarily have the proper accreditation. That said, I don't know what the cheapest university is. It could be my university, but I'm just saying in the sense that this money factor, money is important, and it's a very like obviously like main consideration to take into account. But I'm just saying, let the cost of this institution not blind you to its reputation. Um, so that being said, I will speak about the three that I have already told you. Those are the only three I can speak up on my university, which I'm going to tell you guys the name. Just hold on one second because that question is coming. My university costs 13,000 euros now per year. It used to be 12,000 euros per year, but it's gone up this year, I think. But yeah, for us it used to be, and it is for the whole 4 years, because you kind of sign a contract when you first start, and that's going to be your set fixed rate for the next 4 years. So ours was 12,000 when we started. I think from now on, new students will be paying 13,000. Jagiellonian is 14,000. Yeah, 14,000, and Poznan is 19,000. So yeah, those are the three I'll speak up on. Everybody else, I say, refer to their websites and you will find the costs and you can compare. Again, this will be part of your big comparison. So next question is Augusto M. Is there any possibility of a foreign student getting a scholarship? So I don't know about different schools, Augusto. Maybe different universities in Poland have scholarships, and I don't also know how much scholarship money they would give. But as for my university, there is no scholarship that I know of, anyways. There is grant money that is given based on an award that's given every year, the rector's award, and there's the money that they give is it varies from year to year, but it's not enough to cover tuition. So in a sense, it's not a scholarship. It's just to help finance you, you know, maybe for your future research projects. Like it's probably like 2,000 euros or something. I don't think it's a big amount like your whole tuition paid for the year. And even for that, it's an academic award, so you have to be like really doing well. Let me actually pull up what they say for it. Um, so the award may be granted if you've obtained a GPA of 4.5 or above, fine. If you have scientific achievements, such as publications, have presented at international or national scientific conferences, received first or main award in competitions for students of medical schools, represented MUL. This is the other way, my university. I was supposed to come later. So here I have a comment. The name, there's no name actually, it's just N. N says, I went to Poland with my school 3 years ago, and I was just like you, shocked at how beautiful it was there. I want to study medicine too, but I don't have good enough grades to study in my country, so Poland is one of my top options. There's a very low percentage of foreigners in Poland, and I know they don't let many foreigners in their country. Therefore, I'm afraid there's going to be a bit of racism. So I wonder if you have experienced any racism there, and if it's bad slash not bad, etc. Then she goes on to other questions. So let me address the racism one. I know people who have been racially attacked, if that makes sense, um, either verbally or like actual like physical, like they weren't hurt, but as in like they were kind of followed home. And I mentioned this in the other video, but those are the only two racial things that I can think of off my top of my head. Other than that, it has never happened to me. Um, I have mentioned also sometimes I get weird looks and I don't know if it's curiosity or it's racism, but I have never had anybody say anything racist to me since I've been here, which is saying a lot because I come from a country where I have experienced overt racism. So I'm saying the racism here has definitely not been like it hasn't been noteworthy to me anyway. So yeah, part of N's comment says, also, is it hard to get accepted? Did you apply for several schools or only one? And also, what city are you studying in? I'll come back to that. I'm sorry there's so many questions, but I really want to study medicine and I only have less than a year to decide what country and what university I want to go. I hope you understand. I totally understand and I hope I'm not replying to this too late. I don't know when this was sent, so I'm sorry and if I took too long, but I hope this will get to you in time. Um, so, um, how hard was it to get accepted? I applied to 3 universities, and this was where I'm studying right now is the first one that gave me my acceptance. Um, the other one, Poznan, that I got accepted into, I was offered an interview. So basically, I got through the basic requirements like grades wise. My GAMSAT examination scores were 9, and all of that was fine. So now I only needed to sit the interview, but this university I'm at had already sent through their acceptance, and Poznan had said I had to pay a couple of hundred US dollars for the interview, and then I was just kind of weighing things. I was like, well, the tuition for Poznan's kind of more, and they want me to spend like 500-600 US for the interview. I don't know if it's worthwhile because I'm not seeing what's so much better about Poznan than my university. So I did not continue on with that interview process, but essentially I had been accepted. I just needed to complete the interview. And then the other one that I applied to was Warsaw. I withdrew my application because they were even just back. They were still processing my application. So those were the 3 that I applied to. And what was this? What is this? How hard is it to get accepted? I think I was really stressed out and I was so nervous about it, but after I actually did the process, I thought it was actually not bad. Like, I think when you come from the US, there's all this pressure about. I'm not from the US, by the way, but I studied there, and when I say when you come from the US, I mean when you come from like being an undergrad in the US and trying to get into med school. There's so much competition, and there's all this pressure of will I make it into med school? Only people with a 3.8 GPA make it into medical school with CV and leadership skills, and like you have to be like top, like top of the class. So I was like, am I good enough? I don't know if I'm good enough. And then eventually the interview went well, and I was even surprised because I was like, I could have done this differently, but it went really, really well. Like I got my call back that same day, and they said I was accepted. Next up, we have Alisha F from India. She says, I'm Indian and honestly, I'm a bit nervous about the experiences I might face in Poland. I do not know, or rather cannot find Indians who have spoken of their experiences, so yours was the closest that I could relate to in terms of culture, ethnicity, etc. Alisha, 2 of my closest friends here are Indians, so you will be fine. You'll be fine. When I say Indians, I mean Indians that are from India, Indians that are second generation, first generation from places like the UK, Ireland, Canada, US, etc. So you said I'm applying to the University of Cilicia, this university, and I wanted to know if that's the same place that you're at. It is not the same place I'm at. Also, do you need to learn Polish to get around, or how difficult it is to get around and do your daily errands? No, it's not. My Polish is still really, really bad. You would be surprised because I've had a year of Polish, but it's not intuitive to me as a language, so I have not been able to retain it. But I get around perfectly fine. I use Google Translate. My phone, it's my lifesaver. When I get to some place and the person in the office can't speak English, we whip out Google Translate and we talk together. Sometimes they'll pull up the Google Translate on their computer and they'll flip their screen, and then I'll type, and then they'll type back. So it's kind of crazy, but literally you actually managed to get by. And yeah, it's not too bad. Um, the things that I know how to say best is kava, which is coffee. Although I don't drink coffee anymore, that was the one thing I used to drink a lot. So I'd be like kava zia milken. So kava with milk. Yeah, terrible, terrible. I know. Hey guys, so we're coming up on the next $1 million question, and I think a lot of you already know what this next $1 million question is. But before I read out this question slash email, I just want to say thank you to this person. This person, I don't know why I'm doing this accent, guys. I don't know what's going on today. Uh, maybe the quarantine is getting to me, but I just wanted to say thank you to this person. I'm going to mention their name now for sending this email. This is probably one of the nicest emails I have read so far, and yeah, I just appreciate the love, and yeah, I hope I can continue to bring you guys more useful content. So this is Abdulaziz. Hope I said that right. Abdulaziz T. And he said, I just want to say that I love your content. And the pros and the cons of studying medicine Poland video was super helpful. You gotta post more on your channel, but I'm guessing that med school is occupying all of your time. It is. So that was really nice that you gave me a bit of leeway in that you're like, she ain't around, but it's okay. The girl's doing her thing. So thank you, Abdulaziz. I really hope I said your name right. Okay, so the $1 million question: what school do you go to? So I've been kind of like reluctant to share what school I go to because I just didn't want anything I say to be kind of taken out of context or to be labeled as part of the school. And I'm not trying to get sued for defamation of character. Oh, tell me, I beg you. Okay, I go to the Medical University of Łódź. That's spelled Lodz. The reason why I'm sharing this with you guys now is because I wasn't really sure if people are allowed to kind of mention their universities on YouTube. But I was like, to be honest, you could find out what university I go to by looking at my Instagram, social media, and I feel like if you can find it on those platforms, then you can easily, make two and two. So I'm not saying anything that isn't already out there for you guys to kind of decipher. So, anyways, Abdulaziz, Abdulaziz. You said, how was the admission process? I talked about that earlier. I think it was the question two before you, so I hope you listened to that. You said you're planning on studying medicine this year when you're done with your A levels. And speaking of A levels, you need high grade. Would you mind helping me with the admissions? So I came in as a 4MD student, which means somebody who has had their graduate degree. I don't know what are the criteria for high school students. I don't know what is the grade threshold. Just because we, as postgraduates, we had separate exams we needed to write. So I don't really know about the A levels, and I don't know about the 6MD admission program. But I do have a friend who recently did the the application process, and I can ask her for help. But I say just send me kind of more specific questions that I can ask her and thereafter relay to you. And then you said this may sound weird, but is the country safe? Like break-ins and robberies, etc. It is not weird. I have never had a break-in and I have never been robbed. It is very safe. Nothing has ever happened to me where I felt my life threatened. I used to walk home from the not walk home from the library, but I mean like I would take the tram to my stop and then I would walk home at like odd hours. I'm talking like 11 o'clock in the night, and there would be nobody by the theater house, but I never felt like scared, if that made sense. So yeah, it's relatively safe and there's no break-in robberies. However, goes to say, do not. I have to say this with a grain of salt because when I look back now, what I used to do is kind of silly because I was just like, oh, nothing ever happens to somebody. But there was an incident of a girl who was actually kind of murdered, like serial killer kind of murdered. Um, Very rare occurrence. It's kind of like my country, Namibia, when somebody's killed like in a weird manner, it like makes headlines. So there was a girl that was lost, and then she was finally found, and it turns out she was like murdered, serial killer style. And I actually had forensics medicine at the time, and the woman who was advising the case in court, she was explaining the situation to us. So, anyways, what I was trying to say is that before I digress, um, is that no, it is not a place where you have to worry about safety. For the most part, Poland is safe, which is safe. Obviously, certain neighborhoods are more sketchy than others, and I am speaking about the neighborhoods I have lived in and the places I have been. And then again, it all comes down to um, general just being aware of where you are, your surroundings, and not doing things that put you in a dangerous situation. So, oh, you said I'm interested in applying for the advanced MPhil degree, which is what I'm doing, and was wondering how the entrance exams are generally. Also, how do you find the standard of education in Poland? So, first of all, I'm going to be talking about my school, and I'm going to be reading out questions from another girl because she has very specific questions relating to this, and they're similar to yours. But I'm going to be answering it in the context of my university and not as the standard of education in Poland because I cannot speak to the rest of Poland, and it would be not only incorrect, it would be unfair to say this is what every school does. So yeah, it's getting dark. The rain is coming. Like, I'm gonna have to switch on the light. But anyways, Melissa O, you also said how were the entrance exams? So I kind of touched upon it earlier where I said my entrance exams went fine. It was part of my Skype interview, so it was 2-in-1. I got interviewed and I got asked questions. I don't really remember my interview, believe it or not. I think I was asked a question about physics, I was asked a question about biology, and I think I was asked a question about chemistry. So it's basically fair game for the basic sciences that you have done. There are forums though where you can find students discussing how their interviews went. Um, and I think even our website actually has one moment. So it was actually 2 questions for physics, 3 questions for chemistry, and 3 questions for biology. And then the general questions. I remember my general questions. It's like, why do you want to be a doctor? Um, Professionalism of a doctor. Those questions were fine for me. I remember I messed up on one of my physics questions. Remember, it's so removed from my mind now. But yeah, that was my exam. And this exam was obviously on top of having been accepted with the bachelor's degree, stating that I have done these courses, and also my GAMSAT scores that illustrate that I am ready for graduate level medical education. So this is just essentially to kind of reaffirm that again. So yeah, that was the exam. It was not bad though. I think I practiced with a friend, so I recommend practicing with a friend the interview slash exam beforehand so that you're not nervous. And yeah, I remember I was wearing like a suit shirt and everything, but I had no suit pants on. So I remember thinking they better not ask me to get up, or if I need something, I better not have to get up because this will be very awkward. But that didn't happen, so it was okay. Yeah. All right. So let me move on to the next person's question because she also covers similar concerns and asks similar questions as you, anyways, but in the context of my university as well, and not Poland. And from South Africa. Hello, neighbor. Your question, or rather, first statement is, I just wanted your honest opinion about the university. You cut to the chase. And this is why I said this was the $1,000,000 question, because everybody been asking me this question, and I've been like, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, number one, you said, would you recommend studying at NUL? And then you said, is it really English medium? Do the lecturers also teach in English? Can you give me any information about the entrance exam? I have mine in bio and math. Please, is there also an option to do an internship in Poland after completing studies, or is there another route that can be taken? So, question four, I work my way back to front because I think that's a better way. I can sum up with question one. Um, you said, is there a possibility to do an internship in Poland after completing the studies? Yes, there is. You have to take an exam called the LEC exam. I thought it was strictly in Polish, but apparently you can take it in English. But still, when you do your internship here, it has to be done in, I mean, you have to speak with the patients in Polish. So you have to know Polish well enough to do your internship. I have also heard that internship is not paid for foreigners in the first year, and that only a certain amount of money is allocated to each division for interns by the government. So they don't really have that much money for interns to begin with. So that's why foreign interns are not paid. But it is possible to do an internship in Poland. One of our obs and gynae teachers is actually a product of our university that's now working in the hospital, in the obstetrics hospital, the main obstetrics hospital here in English. And I'm not sure what you meant by, is there another route that can be taken? I'm wondering if you mean like residency wise, everything is fair, pretty much fair game after you get your degree. MUL is recognized by the WHO, and therefore any school that I guess only needs WHO accreditation will accept your degree. But there are some university hospitals that have internship/training programs that may be like, oh, we don't accept your degree because of so and so or this and this. Like, for example, California has its own set of rules and they accept certain degrees over others. When I say certain degrees, I mean from certain universities over others. And it's just kind of like, I don't really know how the California accreditation works, but I heard it's that you have to apply to be evaluated as an institute, and the fee to apply to be evaluated by the California board is very expensive. So not a lot of medical schools abroad go through this accreditation process because it's just a lot of money, and they might only have like one student from California. So that is the case with MUL. MUL is not California accredited, which means if you're trying to go and do your residency in California, you will not be able to. If you want to do your residency in New York, you would be able to, granted that they select you. Can you give me any information about the entrance exam? I have mine in bio and maths. You said bio and maths. Maths was not a topic for me, so I'm assuming you're a 6MD. I don't know about the 6MD exam or entrance Skype interview exam. As I said earlier, let me see if I can find out from a friend about that who recently had it. And what else did I say? I gave you guys general information about what they asked me in terms of like, why do you want to become a doctor, etc. Is it really English medium? Do lecturers also teach in English? It is, when we say English medium, we mean the lecturers and the classes are taught in English. Everything is in English in the sense that your lesson is in English, like from start to finish. From start to finish, I mean from the time you start learning anatomy, it will be in English, to the time you finish with obstetrics and gynecology, it will be taught in English. But here's the caveat: your patients, 80% of them will not speak English. So you will have to walk around with your teacher, and your teacher will translate. Sometimes you will have to go and translate yourself. Sometimes you'll be lucky and you'll have an English-Polish student in your group that can translate. But in general, that is where I will say this is my biggest drawback to studying in Poland. And it's something that I don't think you really factor in until you eventually go away and you do abroad rotations. and you see how important it is to have an English speaking patient population, because essentially in your last year you're meant to be following your own patients. You're supposed to be using the electronic medical record system. You're supposed to be, clerking your patients. So that's we clerk in the sense that we do the history and then we'll discuss in a group. But I mean, like, my name is Dipala and I have my 5 patients that I'm following. It cannot happen because A, I can't access the medical systems record. B, I don't know how to speak Polish, so I need the professor to be with me when I evaluate a patient. Although pediatrics, we just use our phones to translate, so that happens as well. But Polish would help you. That's why they offer 6 MDs, 2 years of Polish, and 4 MDs, 1 year of Polish when you first come. So try and make the most of your Polish classes because it's going to be so helpful if you can speak Polish and you can speak it with your patients. Because the more Polish you speak, the more learning you can get out of the interactions with the patients. Um, then the last question is, would you recommend studying at MUL? This is a loaded question because I say it's very subjective who I would recommend MUL to and not to. It depends what are your future prospects. For example, I would not recommend MUL for MD course for somebody going back to my country because my country has problems with the 4MD course. They don't like it, and that's an issue a little bit. As well as for somebody who's maybe like from Malta or something. I would not recommend it to somebody who is maybe going to study in the US. Not to say I would not recommend it. Like, you can make it, but it will be you carrying a lot of the things on your own because I'm going through this process at the moment. USA is one of my options that I'm applying for residency, and it's it's a lot of me finding out how to do things on my own. Yeah, my school does things, but a lot of it is me doing it on my own because my school is more geared to EU, I would say, than American. Yeah, we have some NDMU exams, but it's not fully paralleling the American system. Whereas there, I feel like there are schools in Poland that are more for American students, and what what basically you need to do in order to get an acceptance or residency position in America. It's like they're there to kind of help you. I say this, for example, when I talk about practical clinical training. In my school, it's 6 weeks. I have friends at Poznan who went for 6 months. 6 months worth of letters of recommendation versus 6 weeks letters of recommendation. It's just very matter of fact who is the clear cut advantage here. Um, so, yeah, that's what I say on that note. I would recommend MUL for people who okay, like for example, like we have a lot of Norwegians. I would say for Norwegians it would be fine because they don't really have much else to do in order to get back to their country, in terms of like licensing exams. So they can balance the schoolwork and not have to worry so much about external exams like the USMLE or something. And then the price is also fair enough in the sense that I would say the difference you're paying for something like Poznan is for the sake of doing like a rotation in America, whereas if you're going to Norway, you don't really need that. So that's why I say, would you recommend studying at MUL? It's a very weird question because it's very subjective. When I want to talk about my theoretical learning, I think I learned a lot from MUL. I wish one of the things that was different is that they taught in a system based module, and I wish departments were more connected to each other in the sense that everybody's kind of like teaching their own curriculum. I wish it was more brought together. But again, a lot of medical school, no matter where you go, whether it's here or somewhere else, is a lot of self studying and how much work you're willing to put into it. So I would say the theory is good. There's some really, really good doctors here that will teach you very well. Um, my pharmacology was definitely one of my favorite subjects here. It was thoroughly taught, very well taught. Immunology is one of the courses where I'm saying sometimes lecturers gave us PowerPoints and we didn't really know how to digest it. I felt like immunology, we were given, oh my God, it's snowing. Guys, it's snowing! The weather is so bipolar. The beginning of this video, it was definitely summer. Wait. Oh, it's snowing. Can you see? I don't know if you guys can see. Wait, get closer. Oh, my goodness. Okay, so that happened. Wow. Oh, it's snowing. Okay, I love the snow, guys. I love the snow. So unexpected. And out here, I was saying it's going to rain. It's snow. Okay. What was I saying? Yeah, my immunology teacher gave us a lot of PowerPoints, and he's very research heavy. So for us as med students, for the first time coming across immunology, I felt like it was almost overkill, in the sense like, what do you need us to know fundamentally and not oversaturate us? And now that I know it better and I know the fundamentals of immunology, I can appreciate the extent to which he taught, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it varied. Clinically, I think a lot of the doctors were quite brilliant. I think some rotations were better than other rotations in teaching. One of the internal medicine, the geriatrics department, taught really well in that they gave us the most relevant guidelines that we need to use day to day. Then psychiatry, that's another department. That's a department that was really well taught. So that's why I don't even want to say like, yes, it's good or bad, because I feel like it's like any place you go to. Some subjects will be better than others. This is an inevitable part of education. I have already mentioned that I felt like I'm disadvantaged in the sense that I don't feel like I have enough time with patients. So yeah. So Ahmed A says, I wanted to know your experiences in studying medicine in Poland. I think I have mentioned some of these. I just graduated college with not many science courses and want to know how the Poland's medical system is. When do you do your rotations? How difficult are the classes? When to take step, and overall opinion about the school, how you compare to Caribbean students. Okay, so rotations I discussed. I mentioned that, and you said how difficult are classes. I also mentioned that previously. When to take step. So I really wanted to do step like how Americans do it. I wanted to do it in my third year, but it was absolutely impossible to do it in my third year. My second and third year, and even my first year, were jam packed. Jam packed. First year was probably the worst, without a doubt, in terms of amount of length in times we would be in school. But then second and third year, we're talking about difficulty of exams. The exams were a lot more difficult and required more attention and focus to study. And I was now in this place where I had switched over to clinical and I wasn't in step one material. So it's not even like I was killing two birds with one stone when I was studying my school things. I was now looking at step two material and I was not in step one material. So it was difficult, like in that sense. And I really wanted to take my USMLE basically last summer. It was just impossible to do for me. Some people are brilliant and they can do it, but for me, I have always attributed my success in med school, not like successful, but like success in med school to my work ethic and hard work, and not that I'm, uh, girl genius instead of boy genius, girl genius. I have to put in the work, and that requires me to kind of have like a game plan and enough time to dedicate to studying. So, in that sense, I feel like if you're doing 6MD program, I think you can make it on the same timeline as US students. If you're doing 4MD program, you will probably have to sit out a year, which is kind of my situation at the moment. I'm still figuring it out in the sense that I'm keeping my options open and it's not just America I'm entertaining. How, when you compare Caribbean schools? I cannot compare Caribbean schools. Okay, so Dana A from Lebanon had a similar question to Nicole M. Dana, I hope what I just had to say helped answer your question. And then I move on to Sarah R. She says, can you give Some information about the hardships of study and study level in medical school. There, I study in Hungary, and not even one third of us can complete one study year. Maybe a couple can finish a year successfully. It is just about paying tuition fee and repeating every year. It's crazy. How is it important? So it sounds like you're saying there's a high attrition rate. Um, you know, the thing is, I don't want to say people pass exams with flying colors because people fail exams here too as well. And I feel like now our dean has taken a harder stance on people who fail exams, and you have a certain amount of repeats. Like I think you're allowed to repeat twice before you're either repeating the entire year or you are being expelled essentially from school. So it's by no means easier, but I will say that it's doable. Because you're saying less than a third of you guys passed. That is not the case for us with most of our subjects. Most of our subjects, you're looking, the hardest subjects are, you're looking at a 50% fail rate. The easier subjects, you're looking at a like one or two people failing, basically. Um, so it's not a situation where you can see like the subject is just hard. Like for example, my first year when I came in, all the senior students told us nobody passes anatomy. Everybody fails anatomy. That's what I was told. And sure enough, like I think I think we only had maybe 5 people out of 130 people passing anatomy. So you know, yeah, med school's hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Survival of the fittest, but it's doable. I definitely think it's doable, and I feel like if you put in, first of all, if you put in your own self-studying, you can make it. If you use a lot of the resources online to prepare yourself for exams here, the hardest exams here are NBME exams, so they're the American exams. If you can read up online how American students study um, for their subject self exams, um, you essentially just need to get that book and study it the same way people have said you should study, and you'll be fine. So I say it's doable. It's just a situation of knowing how to study right here. But as you said, is there a 4MD medical program available in your school for dental graduates? I believe our program should accept dental graduates. We all have quite different backgrounds. Some people did anatomy, others did biochemistry, others did pharmacy. So very different, varied health professional slash science related undergraduate degree. So I don't see why you wouldn't be able to apply to our school for MD program. Um, that said, it's actually very interesting because our school is known for its dentistry program. So yeah, our dean's actually a dentist. He has a medical degree and a dentistry qualification. So yeah, I don't see why you cannot be a dentist and a doctor. Yeah. As Ezekofor. Oh, this is the hardest name I've had so far. Ezekofor. Ezekofor. I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm saying this wrong. Ezekofor C from Nigeria. He says he's studying, or she says she's studying medicine in Kiev, Ukraine. I am currently in my third year of study, but I want to transfer to Poland. Can I transfer to university to continue my studies, hopefully in the fourth course? Um, what are your requirements? I believe you can transfer. I believe one of the people in my year group is actually a transfer, but I don't know if you can transfer into an advanced year. Like I think you would have to transfer into the first year of the 4MD program. I've never seen or heard of a transfer into the middle of the program. Um, and the requirements are on the website. But I would say email the coordinator to find out the specific rules and things needed for a transfer um, student. So just go to the website, go to where they talk about documents and application, um, details and look for the person you are meant to be emailing to ask for the questions regarding the application and tell them that you are interested in applying as a transfer student. Okay, so the next question is University of which is approved all over Europe? Question mark. So that's like this question. But anyways, this is Dr. Harsh. Dr. Harsh. It is an EU degree, so for the most part, it is accredited and approved for all EU countries. But the thing is, in order for it to be like fully accepted and for you to go and practice, different countries have different rules, whereby you have to possibly take the LEC examination, which is the internship examination for Poland, and then you can thereafter go back to that country, or you might even have to practice for 1 year in Poland, which I think is the current situation with Germany. They're trying to get it switched around so that German students and German applicants wanting to train in Germany have to do a year in Poland before they can go to Germany. So it varies from country to country. Ireland and Britain are not like that. Ireland and Britain, you don't have to take the LEC. You take your individual exams for those countries, and then you get your diploma. You do the certification process basically after you graduate, and you go start work. There's no um, issues. So it varies from country to country, but essentially it should be accepted by every country. The only situation is the processing and the requirements will vary with country to country. And apart from that, you also have to not forget it will still also vary probably from hospital to hospital what their requirements are. So yeah, just bear that in mind. I think one of the important things to note is that America is not, I mean, sorry, not America. Europe is not like America in that America has a standardized system. It's the same pretty much across the board how you apply. Europe is not like that, and even within European countries, there are differences on how to go about applying for residency training job. Matthew L. from the UK. He says, I'm from the UK, recently completed my undergraduate degree in biomedical sciences. I'm trying to find universities in Europe that offer 4 year programs. After the program, I want to come back to the UK and apply for foundation year to eventually work in the NHS. However, I am seeing contradictory information. Some sources say universities are corrupt and have poor standards. I'm not quite sure which information to trust. I will leave my questions below to make it easier to read. Did an agency help you with your application and settling in? Nope, an agency did not help me. However, my friend did use an agency and they helped her with her application and with settling in. So it is possible to do that. What sources did you use to get your information? I used the internet, Google search, yeah, forums, Value MD, what's the other one? StudentNet, I think, StudentNet. Mostly forums and just individual websites for the different university programs. And then he says, are there many medical students from the UK in the program? I don't know if I would say many, but there's a good amount of medical students from the UK here. One of my best friends is actually from the UK, and she will be starting her job with the NHS this summer. She placed, and yeah, it was no problem. Um, what are Polish people's attitudes towards Asians? I'm mixed Indian and white. My friend is Indian, so she's actually Indian British, and she had no problems. And the attitudes towards Asians, there's no. I think a lot of people have a lot of preconceived notions about the levels of racism here, but they're really not like. It's not like you're. I have yet to be at receive the racial slur from a skinhead, because I feel like that's what most people envision happening. That has never happened to me. So I can't even say what are the attitudes towards Asians because I haven't seen racism happening to anybody not Polish, if that makes sense. So now we have Olobogeng M. Wow. I thought, hold up. I thought Ezukofor was the hardest name I was going to see, but I think Olobogeng has a close second, if not a close first. But Olobogang M from South Africa. You guys, I hope you don't take offense to me like calling out your names because I have a very difficult full name. So I understand and I feel your pain. So I'm just like, you know what? When God bless my teachers when they struggle with my name. Anyways, I wanted to know more information about studying medicine in Poland because I'm considering doing it as well. I saw your YouTube videos and you seem well informed. Oh, thank you, Alba Gang. No, I'm kidding. No, seriously, thank you. I am really not that well informed. I just know what I know. So please, guys, if there's other sources you can use to find information, do it. I don't think you should ever just kind of be like, oh, this is what this person has told me. It's always good to compare and contrast. So you said, I hope it's fine if I ask you a few questions. Let me tell you a funny story about this question that I just read out because it's the second time I've actually done the same mistake. Basically, I was reading this question and I was waiting to like hear the questions Oliver Gang has for me, but there was no question Oliver Gang. So I was like, what? And again, right now when I was rereading it to you guys, I was like, where's the question? So twice this has happened to me. But the reason why I included this question is because I just wanted to say, you're so cute. Like you actually asked if you could ask me a question before asking me the question. Thank you, Oliver Gang. That was very considerate of you. So shout out to Oliver Gang from South Africa. Next question is Julia C. I almost said her last name. Julia C. She says, "Hi, I don't know if you're still active on here. Well, I am now. But I really love your videos and I hope you're doing well." Oh, Julia, she's so cute. I am doing well, Julia. She says, "I'm Polish. I've never lived in Poland and I want to study medicine there. Due to personal reasons and unfortunate circumstances, my grades have dropped." I'm sorry to hear that. And I can't afford most places. I know certain more developed societies, tuition can be very expensive. So you said, "I have to say I'm disappointed in my country with recent changes in government and them not accepting refugees, etc. I'd love to know what you think about med school in Poland a year later. Anyways, I wish you all the best." Oh, Julia. Oh my God, this is actually, I can't tell now who's my favorite in this email bunch. I have two favorites now. Thanks, Julia. I really appreciate all your well wishes, and it's so nice because it's coming from a Polish person too. So that's great to hear. One of my best friends is actually Polish, but she's also like you in the sense of she's Polish but hasn't lived here. So, anyways, you said, what's it like a year later? It's actually now a couple of years later. I'm 2 months off from graduating, and I don't know. It's kind of surreal in the sense of I'm gonna be a doctor. I'm like, wow, they're gonna let me be a doctor. Really? They won't let me be a doctor? Nah. But it is kind of one of those things where I feel like as much as I talked about, oh, I wish we had more practical skills, and I feel like I'm going to be disadvantaged in that sense. I don't feel like that aspect of catching up is impossible. Like I feel like I'm ready for the next chapter in the sense of I will mess up and I will probably be lacking in certain areas, but I know I will be good in certain areas. And it's kind of a situation where everybody who goes into internship goes in feeling like Jon Snow, you know nothing. So I feel okay in the sense of like I've rotated abroad and I've rotated in my rotations. I've rotated with interns. So those are people in training positions, and I've seen what level of responsibilities will be expected of me in my first years. And at the beginning of my rotations, it was intimidating, but as time went on, I got used to kind of, you know, doing similar jobs. Obviously, it's not the same because when you're rotating, they give you less responsibility, but still, I just feel okay in that sense. And yeah, I've made some really good friends here, lifelong friends. Um, and it's been one of those experiences where I say the people in Poland were like good. Like I don't have anything bad to say about the people in Poland. Um, I will say that I think I'm ready to go back to an English speaking country. I found it so hard to learn Polish, and I was just like, oh, I wish I knew Polish because I feel like I would have related better to the people here. But I have nothing bad to really say about Polish people, and so in that sense, it's been a 4 years where I have not only come here to get an education, but I've been able to peacefully get my education, and in that sense, I'm grateful to God because this chapter is coming to end, and it hasn't been a situation. One sec, it hasn't been a situation where it. One sec, it hasn't been a situation where it's um, like anything really detrimental has happened. Everything has kind of come to fruition. Okay, guys, that is a wrap. I cannot believe this video is so long. Woo! Really long, but you know what? There was a lot of questions that needed answering. So we're gonna switch over now to the chat if we're not already chatting, because I think I might have to start the chat portion a little bit earlier because I didn't realize this would run over. I hope this was useful, and I'll see you guys on As Told by Paula on the next vlog episode. Hit the subscribe button somewhere around here. Check out some more videos, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Ciao!